Hello, viewer. I got a request to show what exactly you would do in real life. You can use this. I'm going to apply this to the simulator, not because you can't simulate everything you would do in real life. So I'm just going to take you a quick walk around of what you would do in Cessna 172, and maybe you can use this if you want to play flight sims or for whatever you do. I'm going to be using a real life checklist. Um, the basics are before every flight you go to the airport and get your keys. Airport, let's talk about that first. This is Beaver Airport, airport I fly at in real life. It's not the same as in real life. There's different there's a restaurant, cafe here, and the everything's just a little different. There's a hangar here, but there's a tower, the windsock, which actually is located somewhere else, and runway 28 and 10. So this is what I would normally be flying off of in real life. So once I get through all the getting the keys and everything for the airplane, it's time to do a walk around. Now for a walk around, you are going around the airplane and inspecting everything, making sure it's all good to fly. So I'm not going to do a very detailed walk around because there's no need for that in a flight simulator, but just to give you an idea, you turn your battery on, you turn all your lights on, which are these down here. Come on, there you go. And you put your flaps down. And then you get out of the plane and you walk around to make sure all your lights are on, your flaps go down. You see these lights here? You see these lights are on, and these lights are on, and just make sure all your lights are on. Okay, now when you do that, you want to go back in and turn your battery off, turn all these lights off, make sure everything's off because you don't want to be using your battery. And I'll explain some of what this does in a moment. I'm going to go slower doing the walkthrough in this than I would in real life, obviously. For my walk around, I just go check the rivets, check everything in here, make sure all the control surfaces are good, brakes, check for anything, any dents or anything in the wind, check the oil, check the gas, which is on top of the plane. Let me see if I can, I don't know how to get a view of that. Yeah, you check the oil, you check the gas, you check everything, make sure everything is airworthy. Once you're satisfied, you can get in the plane, start your checklist. So after you do all that, you would normally brief your passenger. You'd say hello. This is how you get out of the plane. Use the doors and everything like that. Then you check your circuit breakers, which are. Let me see if I can do this at the same time. These thingies right here. They have no function in this simulator, I believe, but if any of them are popped out, you need to report that to maintenance. But in the simulator, everything's going to be fine there. All my alt static and everything is good. Okay, and then we actually get to starting the plane. So, what we do first is make sure our seats, sorry about my track error, make sure our seats are locked and everything's good here. Everything is off. Put your throttle, which is this thingy, put it in a quarter of the way, like 1/4 inch, I mean, just a little bit. As you can see, I moved it up. Mixture, which is this red thing, should be full lean. You need to apply your brakes. I'm going to use a parking brake just because I don't have actual rudder pedals in real life, so things are a lot more difficult. By rudder pedals in real life, I mean for my computer. Obviously, I have them in the real plane. Mixture full lean, brakes, and then prop clear. What you want to do is, well, I usually have my window open. You would shout clear real loud so everybody around you know you're going to be starting up your propeller soon. And you have to make sure that you turn your battery on and your alternator on. Make sure that's all going. And then you turn your beacon on, and the checklist doesn't say so, but I turn my strobe light on. And then you want to test your auxiliary fuel pump. This is a kind of a emergency fuel pump. So you turn your pump on, and then you watch your fuel flow right here. What you do is you put your mixture to full rich, and see how that fuel flow moves. That's good. It means your pump is working. Put your mixture to lean and turn the pump off. So you know everything's working now. So in real life, in real life I fly a Cessna 172R. This is a Cessna 172 SP. It's a little different. It's pretty much the same basic everything, but it's a little different. So if you see me looking around the cockpit, that's why. What you do in real life is you turn your magnetos on, turn them to start, which will start turning the prop, and then once the engine kicks in, you then put your mixture to full rich. But for the sake of the sim, and since I don't have two hands on different equipment in real life, I'm going to put my mixture full rich now, and then you start your magneto. So you take your magneto and you turn it to start, you let go. Alright, your engine starts good, your RPM is fine. Now your plane idles at about 500 to 700 RPM, but in real life it's best for the engine you keep it at about 1000 RPM. It's good. So engine is at 1000 RPM, things look good. Okay, and then I check my oil pressure. My oil pressure is rising. I can put my throttle on a little bit there and it's going to green. You check your oil temperature. My temperature is cold, obviously, because this is a cold starter plane, but the temperature gauge is rising a little bit, and you'll see it rise more. Oil pressure and oil temperature. You guys can see my mouse, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. If not, this is going to be kind of weird. And then that's it for the starting of the plane. Now you do a pre-taxi check. What you do is make sure your flaps are up. So, raising my flaps all the way. Flaps are these things on your wings right here. They provide, well, they change the chord line of your wing, which I won't get into that. Okay, and then I adjust my heat and vents and everything, which are these things right here. It's like a little air conditioning or heat. Avionics. You want to turn your avionics on, which will power up all your electronics right here. Then I make sure my transponder is on alt and squawking 1200. That's a normal VFR squawking frequency, so you make sure your transponder is squawking 1200. Squawk, just, that's your number. And then you want to turn in the radio, and I just happen to know off the top of my head Beaver's radio number. The ground is 121.8, so you normally turn these knobs in real life, but this is easier here. 121.8. That's ground. And then you put this on your main frequency. And then I'm also going to turn the tower just so I don't have to do that later. Tower is 120.3. And before I start up or do anything, we want to listen to the ATIS, get the current weather. Now before the flight, you call the weather briefer and you get a full weather briefing. It's a Lockheed Martin flight service. You will know all this, but you want to listen to the ATIS anyway, which on this airport is 118.35. There's 118. And then let's go to 35. It's kind of weird. Hold on. There we go. 118.35. And then we're going to put that on active communications. And then we're going to turn on COM 2 because this is COM 2, this is COM 1 radio, this is COM 2 radio. I want to listen to the COM 2. So I'm going to click COM 2. We'll hear the ATIS come up.
Beaver County, airport information echo. 0219er Zulu.
Information
Wind
echo.
calm. Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky condition clear. Temperature 1 dew point 3. Altimeter 2.
Altimeter is wrong for this thing.
Runway 28 in use. Landing and departing. Runway 28. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have echo.
Alright, advise controller that we have echo on initial contact. They said your altimeter which is this saying it's set to 29 or 9 or 2. That's actually false, but for this, I don't think the sim actually has it. So 29 or 9 or 2 would put us at the airport elevation, which is 1,253 MSL. So that's what we are at now. That is on the ground. And we listen to the ATIS, so that's all good. Let me just see. So, and then we would test the radio, but we can't really do that in the sim. I'm gonna turn on my taxi lights. Then we do a little test of the brakes. So, give it a little power. Get your airplane to start moving forward. And then you test the brakes. Just hit the brakes. Make sure that you have hydraulic pressure and your brakes are working. Okay, very good. They're working. And then that's it. We are ready to taxi out to the run-up pad and get ready for takeoff. So what I would do now is I'm on ground frequency 121.8. I would call out Beaver ground, and I'm just gonna do a quick go around for you guys just to show you what that's like. So I'd say Beaver ground, Cessna 986, Bravo Tango, ready for departure. And you know, you tell the ground what you're gonna do. So I am remaining in close traffic. I'm remaining in the pattern, and I have information echo because you heard in the ATIS you need to report you have information echo. So I'm gonna bring up the ATC menu, request taxi, remain in pattern.
Beaver County round, Cessna, November 986 Bravo Tango with Foxtrot. Request taxi for takeoff, touch and go. Cessna, November 986 Bravo Tango, taxi to and hold short of runway 28 via taxiway. Contact tower on 120.3 when ready.
Okay, this is a little off. Remember, we have information echo from the ATIS, but he says Foxtrot for some reason. You just say requesting taxi for close traffic. And then the response is wrong. He would say runway 28 via taxiway Alpha, which is the taxiway up here. Contact tower on point 3 when ready. So then you just acknowledge it, what he said.
Taxiing hold short runway 28 via taxiway Cessna.
Alright,
Bravo Tango.
now we are ready to taxi. So excuse my clumsy taxiing as I try to taxi with no rudder pedals. I'm using just a weird slider here. So we're gonna go out and we're going to go to the run-up pad. Sorry, this is so finicky. It's really hard to. I don't even think this game has differential brakes, which is what you would use. They're the toe brakes on each rudder pedal. They control one of the brakes. Okay, so now I'm on taxiway Alpha. Hopefully you can stay straight here. Okay, there's a runway there. I'm taxiing to the runway. Now what I do is do a check of my instruments. The magnetic compass right here, make sure that it's free flowing. Then you would check your altimeter. Altimeter is set. Your artificial horizon is upright and erect. My airspeed there is pinned. In real life that would be 0. Then you check your turn coordinator. So you do a little turn on the taxiway here. You see that it's banking. That little ball right there would actually be moving. And I can see my heading indicator is moving and my vertical speed is 0. So that's all good. By now I'd be in the taxi ramp, the run-up ramp here. So what you do is you go off into this little run-up ramp. You just get up here and you turn towards the runway. This is just a little ramp where you can do your final checklist and stay clear of any planes. You want to face the runway and stop before this line here. Alright, let me reduce my RPM. And I'm going to put the parking brake on just because I don't have the brakes. Okay, so before we go, a little tour of the cockpit. This is my radio system you saw me playing with. It's transponder, radios, all that stuff, GPS. We're not going to be using these instruments today. These are just some engine gauges. This is a microphone if you don't have a headset. This is my trim, fuel. But we really don't need to know all this stuff yet. if you like, you can look into it farther, or I can explain it in a more detailed video. We want to make sure that all of our gauges are good. This is your speed, your airspeed. It is indicated airspeed, which means it's indicated off your airspeed indicator. This is your artificial horizon. This is the nose of the plane and the wings. You can see it's stable on the horizon, which is this little line here. The altimeter, which shows your height. Right now I am at 1,253 feet. MSL, that means above the sea level. My vertical speed, this shows how fast you're going up or down. So if this needle is pointing at the 5, I would be climbing at 500 feet per minute. If it was at 10, I'd be 1,000 feet per minute, and so on. Heading indicator is just like your magnetic compass. It shows your direction. And your turn coordinator shows, make sure your turns are coordinated, make sure this ball is always in the center of your turns, and it shows the bank of your plane. This is your RPM, engine revolutions per minute, how fast your propeller is spinning. Right now I'm at 1,000 RPM. You see the green arc is 2,100 to 2,600 RPM approximately. So you just want to make sure everything's in there. Then always be aware of your fuel and make sure your engine gauges are all in the green at all times. So normally this wouldn't take this long in real life. I'm just explaining everything. This is an instructional video, so yeah, if you're still with me, you probably know that by now. What we do is go through our run-up checklist right now. So we make sure our brakes are set, make sure our fuel is on both here. There are 2 fuel tanks, one in the left wing and one in the right wing. We want to draw fuel from both of them so the weight doesn't get all weird. Okay, so fuel is at both. And then trim, you want to set this to takeoff trim. See this little white bar, you want it right with the arrow there. That's your takeoff trim. Flight controls, we test our flight controls. So that's your surfaces here. So left, want to make sure our left aileron rises. Right, want to make sure our right aileron rises. Then look behind you. Got your elevator. That's all working good. So flight controls are good. Then you would check your annunciator lights in real life. There's a little switch here that you can push up and all these lights light up. You can test and make sure that that's all good. And yeah, if there's other stuff, it's not applicable to us. So now we put our engine at 1,800 RPM to make sure everything's running good there. So let's advance our throttle with the brakes held tight. We want our RPM to be at 1,800. Now for some reason in this game the plane is rolling forward, so I'm going to set it back a little bit. You wouldn't roll forward in real life. You'd have enough brakes to hold that. So that our engine is at 1,800 RPM. We want to test our magnetos. So we want to go to our right mag and test that. So we take this switch, turn it to right. You see a little drop in your RPM. That is what you are supposed to see. Right magneto is, or left magneto is good. Now we test our left magneto and see another little drop in RPM. That's good, so put it back to both. RPM will stabilize back to what you had it at. We check our vacuum pressure. That's in the green. That's all good right there. Okay, so we did mags, vacuum. Now we're going to check our amps and volts. So what you do is you take this little alternator switch right here and you turn it off. Now your amps should drop here. When you turn it back on, the amp should go back up and stabilize at 0. That is good, that's what you want to see. And then you just double check that your oil temperature and oil pressure is all in the green. Now we're going to go to idle. We need to make sure our engine idles at around 5 to 6 to 700 RPM without any glitches or anything. And as we can see with our engine at idle, the sound is fine, it seems stable. So let's put it back up to 1000 RPM here. Okay, engine idles good. That is the run-up check. Now we just do a pre-check takeoff check. Make sure our flaps are raised. Our mixture is pushed all the way in for best power. Auxiliary fuel pump, just making sure that's off. Heading indicator to compass. Now, it probably doesn't apply in the sim, but in real life, due to different stuff in the air, different vibrations and stuff. This heading indicator gets displaced off this compass. So you just want to, as you're sitting level, the compass is not moving, you want to make sure that this is aligned perfectly with the compass, and we can see that it is. Now usually in real life it's not. You would have to turn this button here to align your compass with it. Make sure that our doors and windows are all closed and good. Everything's good there. Just double check your transponder one more time. Make sure that this is on alt, which it is, and you're squawking 1200. Now I'm going to turn my landing light on. And my strobes are already on. And that's it. That's all we need to do. I can put away my checklist, which normally would be stored down here in this little folder. Now I can release my brakes and go up to the hold short lines there. Now I'm going to switch to my tower frequency on my radio, which is 120.3. So we can call the tower and request takeoff clearance. So there we go. I switched to tower frequency. I am going to taxi over to these little yellow lines at this beginning of the runway here. Okay, and then I'm going to call the tower, and what I would say is Beaver Tower, Cessna 986, Bravo Tango, ready at 28, because that's all you need to say. The ground will already, they'll already know that I want close traffic and all that stuff. Oops, I just hit a button on my joystick and all these lights are my lights good? All my lights are on, I don't, nah, whatever. Okay, so now let's hit up the tower. Request takeoff clearance, VFR.
Beaver County Tower, Cessna, November 986 Bravo Tango, ready at runway 28, touch and go. Cessna, November 986 Bravo Tango, cleared for takeoff, runway 28, touch and go. Left traffic, approved.
Can you say, clear 28, touch and go, left traffic, 6 Bravo Tango.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 28, Cessna 6 Bravo Tango.
And the game, you know, obviously, it's not perfect. So now we're clear for takeoff. Want to check our traffic, make sure nobody's landing, make sure nothing is going on, because towers are just human, they can make mistakes. Okay, so now we're gonna taxi up on the runway and get ready for takeoff. You'll notice I'm not putting my flaps on, because you don't need flaps for takeoff in this aircraft. And bear with me, I don't have rudder pedals or anything, so I'm not going to be centered on the runway because it's just too hard. So now we go to full power. Advanced throttle all the way. You check your RPMs. RPMs are in the green. You check your airspeed. It's unpinned. And all your engine gauges are green, green, green. Then at 60 knots, you rotate and you pull your knots, or you pull your nose up, and you will lift off from the runway. That is good takeoff. Now you want to keep going. Climb speed, the one we want to use, VX, VY, is 79 knots approximately in this plane. So you just want to maintain pitch to keep your airspeed indicator right here at about 79, and you will keep the rate of climb here. At 500 feet up, we were gonna turn left. Always make sure you are on full throttle, full RPMs. Okay, good. Okay, there's 500 feet, that's 1700 MSL. We're going to turn left and go down to about south. Now in real life, this is, you know, a lot different. You feel the different forces and the plane doesn't respond as perfectly as this one. And I don't have rudder, but apparently I'm still centered, so. Okay, that's about 90 degrees. I'm gonna turn. Now we're going to turn downwind. By the way, traffic pattern altitude is 2,250 at this airport, so that's when we're going to stop climbing. Now I'm just turning onto my downwind leg, which is going parallel to the runway, the opposite direction. So here I go. That's about good. Now you can see I'm at traffic pattern altitude, so I'm going to reduce my RPM a little bit, level off so I'm not climbing anymore, and just fly the runway heading until I am base. Now the tower should be calling me pretty soon, giving me my clearance to land. I don't know if I'm gonna have to ask them or not in this game. Everything's still looking good. All my gauges are in the green. So by now you'd want your tower to start calling because I'm about to get a beam the runway threshold, and then I reduce power to 1500 RPM right there, and I put 1 notch of flaps in.
Cessna 6 Bravo Tango, clear, touch and go, left traffic, runway 28.
Clear 28, left traffic, 6 Bravo Tango.
Clear, touch and go, runway 28.
Alright.
Cessna 6 Bravo Tango.
Huh, this sim is actually modeled kind of good. The roads are here, and that's kind of how it looks in real life. So now I'd start my turn into the base leg, and I'm going to add another notch of flaps right here. I'm going to turn just a little before north. I'm going to stop my turn. So my RPM is still good. Make sure everything looks good. Now, the ground and terrain and everything is different in this game than real life. I'm pretty low right now. Then I'm turning on for final, adding my last notch of flaps. I'm gonna be on final here pretty soon. I'm a little low, but you know, I'm gonna now. Normally, you'd be getting on your rudder pedals and making sure everything's correct. I don't have rudder, so I'm just gonna hope everything is good. Now you want to land at about 65 knots is what you want to shoot for. I'm pretty low here, but nothing too horrible. Just increase my power, and there we go. About good. So now we're pretty close to the runway. I'm gonna cut my power about right here. Go down the runway. Oh, I just turned my lights off somehow. And then I flare my aircraft, stall it nicely onto the runway, and my brakes, and then the tower would call me up, say, Beaver Tower, Cessna 986 Bravo Tango, and give me clearance to go off the runway. So I would turn on actually the taxiway up here, which I think is taxiway Charlie, unless I just passed Charlie. No, I'm pretty sure this is Charlie. So I'm going to turn off on taxiway Charlie here. I don't know why the tower hasn't contacted me. Okay, so here's taxiway Charlie. Turn off, and there's this little, you see these little yellow lines, you want to stop just past them. You have a pre-landing checklist. Basically you turn some lights off and put your flaps up. And then I go over to Beaver Ground, which is on 121.8. Actually, sorry. You should make sure your plane is clear of these yellow lines. Okay, there we go. Looking good. Okay, then I'd say that Beaver Ground, Cessna 986 Bravo Tango, clear of Charlie, taxi main ramp. So I'm saying I'm clear of taxiway Charlie, and I want to taxi to the main ramp. So let me tune Beaver 121.8. There we go. And it's not letting me say it, but that's what you say. They'd be like, Roger, taxi main ramp. And I'd be like, main ramp, 6 Bravo Tango. I'd go in here, park, refuel the plane and everything, get out and shut down. Now to shut down your plane, you just pull the mixture out all the way lean, and then wait for prop to stop, turn your everything off, make sure everything gets turned off. Oops, all these are off. Okay, everything looks good. So obviously you wouldn't turn your plane off here on the ramp. Forgot to put my flaps up. You do look at the checklist, but it's kind of pointless to, in the simulator. In real life, you would look at the checklist and everything would be good. So yeah, that is a little instructional video of how things are kind of done in real life, kind of made for this simulator. If you want, this is Microsoft Flight Simulator X. There's also a game called X-Plane you can try one of those and try your hand at flying. This will give you the basics of how to, do a basic flight in pretty much any kind of simulator. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If you want some in the future, just let me know. And thanks for watching, viewer. I'll see you next time. Farewell.